Okay, great. Third session of the Seminole Patchwork with Paper session. Today, we're going to be doing another pattern that is just horizontal and verticals, but it'll be the last time we'll be doing that. After this, it's going to be all a lot of diagonals. So I feel like I'm really taking you through this kind of like step by step. But I think it's really nice that what I'm seeing is that people who are sending me photos, which I just love, are really exploring these simpler patterns. And you probably won't do that as much when you get into the diagonal. So this is really great. I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about, just a couple minutes today, about the Seminole, the origins of this. So it's actually so hard, it's really kind of hard to find what I consider accurate information. I just sort of pick out what I think is the most accurate information. And this one felt very authentic to me. The part that I want to highlight here, it says many years ago, the Indians were given treadle sewing machines and remnants from fabric bolts that were donated to them. That made sense to me. I knew that they had gotten the sewing machines and bits of material, but I didn't really know where they came from. It's interesting that they were donated. So they never did these patterns without a sewing machine. And to me, that's interesting in that the technology of the sewing machine helped people do what they were doing already faster. What the Seminoles did is they did something completely different. So they took this new technology and did something different with it, which blows my mind. You start seeing their stuff. There's not much documentation of the earliest work that they do, so it's hard to know exactly when it started. But they had very simple patterns that they used on the things that they sold, and she says the more intricate patterns were made by the Indians for their own clothing, and they did not share the patterns. And what happened was, so the Seminoles were in the Everglades. They'd sort of been consigned to the Everglades, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at another time. But then, of course, what happened is that, guess what? Somebody got their eye on the Everglades, wanted to start draining them and put the Tamiami Trail through them, which is a highway, which again displaced them. But then this is what happened, because the Tamiami Trail opened up and tourists began to come down to the area. They were able to set up villages along the Tamiami Trail, which tourists would pay to come in and gawk at them and buy their things. So they actually used this to their advantage. They were able to instead of just being displaced by something, they figured out a way to make a living around it. So yeah, the dolls and the patchwork really supported the tribes. That, and the other thing was alligator wrestling. Yes. So that became a big thing. That's not something the Seminole people did because they liked doing it. They did it for tourism. So the things you do. So I'm glad they had patchwork also. Okay. So that's that. It's going to switch to my other camera now. And let's see if I got this. Okay. So today I'm hoping you all have your strips done. Oh, no, before I do that, I want to do a little bit of just sort of housekeeping. Let's see, I'm going to show you guys something. Let's see. Get over here. And over here, share screen again. Share. Okay, so if you end up, I'm not sending out emails to people saying what we need. I'll often write a blog post, but I might not always write a blog post. You can easily get to my blog by typing in the word Book Zoompa, or you can just type in my name, Paula Krieg. Paula Krieg. It'll take you right to my blog. Up here at the top, I've made a new page, and on the page, I will always update it with this week's information. So that's the easiest way to get it. Also on this page will be a link to the video playlists. I'm putting these together in a playlist so that you can go. We have 1 and 2 now. And so you can go and watch those and they'll all always be together. And I also, the class Pinterest board link is here. Class Pinterest board is just giving me so much pleasure. And I hope you go see it. And what you want to do is when you get there, these all look fabulous. But the thing to do is to click on one and then click on it again, or view image. Okay, view image. And you can see the image. This Clara sent me this morning. This is last week's. I love this. This is last week's pattern, but she played around with changing up the colors and what she used and the various proportions. So be sure to check that out, because the 2 people who have seen the Pinterest page so far have reported back that they love it. Okay, me too. Okay, so what we're doing this week is a pattern that has 2 types of strips. So this is where you might want to start keeping on the back of your paper what it is. And here we have that. This is how we're going to set up the gluing. And this is a good reminder for me. And I do this with a lot of them, is that after what scraps that are left over, I'll just put on the back what they were made of, because it's actually hard to come back and have to redecipher it every time. So we're going to set it up like this. And today I'm going to again be cutting mine in half, and I'm going to actually only cut down half because again, for time, and also because it's 2 rows, this much will fill up a whole piece of paper. So you're going to get out your number 2, and you all are also getting like double instruction, because over the week I talked to my friend Susan, and we talk about things, and I pick up a lot of things from her. So the thing that I really do love this week, she talked about this last week, and it's fabulous. She takes these cheap brushes that you can get. They're cheap if you get them at the hardware store, not so much if you get it at AC Moore. She gives it a haircut to about 5/8 of an inch. And what this does is really works well, because and I'm still, like I said, she does the full length. I'm okay with doing half lengths. What this does is, it's one thing, I can put more glue in my container because it won't come up so high unless I tilt it like I just did. So I like being able to put my brush back into my container. And then what she noticed is that but using this, it really presses it down. It doesn't tend to move around. So that's really nice. The other thing she has me doing is using a damp cloth, like, constantly. I just basically keep it on my lap, and I keep putting my fingers on it, because lots of times I don't even know when I've got the glue on my hands. So we're going to be doing this sequence: red, white, red, and then skip up a ways and do pink, red, pink. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And as we're doing that, that'll take about 3 or 4 minutes. If anybody wants to ask any questions, that's fine. I think I can handle it.
Paula, will you pull your camera out, please, so we can see more of your desktop?
Sure.
Huh?
You got it working.
Somebody told me to shut it off and come back, and I did.
Oh.
Will you get me a washcloth, damp?
Reboot's always the first thing.
Huh?
Reboot's always the first thing.
It's fine. It happened. It worked. I don't like that.
We can hear you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You hear me chase my husband out to get me a washcloth?
I know, and I was admiring his willingness.
Where's the mute thingy?
It's all the way in the lower left-hand corner of your screen.
Obviously, I'm having technical.
I think we're going to just put up with your technical difficulties, unless, and then I can mute you manually if that wonderful husband of yours comes and talks to you again. So this idea of having 2 different bands and then alternating them is going to be building up to having more than 1 band, more than 1 width, more than 2 bands, and it can get really intense. So the very first time I showed people this, I showed them with multiple bands going in the diagonal, and it was very difficult, even though I was in the same room with them. So that's why we're doing it nice and slow. The other thing I want to emphasize today is that be sure that your blade is nice and sharp when you're doing your cutting, just because then you don't really have to put as much pressure on. And it's really the having too much pressure on is what makes it, you know, hurt yourself. And never be in a rush. So remember, we put the ruler right on the piece and just cut, not through the whole thing, but just part way. I always like to have my ruler on the right. So turn it upside down. I mean on the left, so I'll turn it upside down. Do it again. Okay. Anybody want to give me a guess of how wide I'm going to be making these? How wide I'm going to be making my strips? If you look at this, you can put up your fingers. Yeah, that's right, Jerry. I can see Jerry. I don't know why I can only see Jerry, but that's okay. That's right. We're going to be making little squares. So it's 3. These are 3 unit wide strips. Now, when I looked at my notes for this, I put in the question mark. Maybe the outer one should be 4 units wide, and then I can trim them down. So if you're doing, if you're finding that things aren't as accurate as you want them to be, leave that as an option, that you can make the outer strips wider and trim down, and then it'll be perfect. I'm just going to cut 4 units because that'll give us enough to see the pattern emerge. Oops. I was pressing too hard. Nothing good ever comes of pressing too hard. I've got to do a couple more because I messed up on. Okay, and I'm going to show one more thing. So if you are still cutting, just take a break and look up. In a second, keep cutting. Okay, so I want to take a break and look up. I'm going to be putting this on black, which of course was an optional choice. And pencil. What do I have? Everything handy but a pencil. Okay, I'm just use a pencil, and I'm going to put a line on here, but I'm not going to set them on the line. I like using the line. Oh, I'll show you how I'm using the line. So there's my line, and I made it darker than I might otherwise so that you could see it. And when I put these on, I'm going to glue them on. So I'm going to find a spot on the little strip that I'm going to line that line up to. Somehow that seems to work better for me. I don't know exactly why that is, but it just always works better for me. And then I'm going to start gluing these down, alternating them. Okay, so that's the end of the actual instruction for today. I'm going to keep working, but I'm going to stop the video. Last week I didn't stop the video right away, and so some of you were on video. None of you were doing anything embarrassing, so I kept it that way. And but if anybody objects to seeing themselves, I could always do something to get rid of yourselves. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.